Hey friends, welcome back to Midway for Your Garden. Today is actually going to just be a huge preservation day. I have lots of things to be dealing with. It is getting towards the end of June. All of our spring crops have been dealt with, so we actually had one last cauliflower that I just blanched and put in the freezer. But all of our cauliflowers and broccolis and spinach and arugula and all of that stuff, peas, are all kind of done for the season. We will probably start a smaller group of them in a couple weeks inside to transplant out in August. But for now, we are starting to get summer stuff. So we have a bunch of strawberry projects to do today, and peppercinis are starting to come in like crazy pants. So I do pickled peppercinis. It is just something that we like to have on the table for actually most meals. But I will show you what I do with these. It's a little bit different. It is not an approved canning method, so if you don't feel comfortable, please don't follow this recipe. But I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. But the first thing I'm going to do is put my hair up. We already washed hands. We've kind of washed everything. We have some jars going through a sanitize cycle in the dishwasher, but I do actually want to be able to put these in those jars shortly after they come out, as they are very, very hot. But the first thing that we need to do is prep these. So for pickled pepperoncinis, they are a little bit on the thicker side as a rind. It's not the same as a cucumber. So poking a couple of holes in them so that the brine can actually get inside is pretty important. So I'm just going to sit here and do that for a little while. So the things that we're going to be doing today are the pickling of these pepperoncinis and making some strawberry jam, making some strawberry lemonade concentrate because we have some people in the house that love strawberry lemonade. And in all its forms, sometimes they actually drink strawberry lemonade, sometimes they want to make it into frozen strawberry lemonade by just adding a bunch of ice. So lots of different ways that we will probably be using that. I am going to do the strawberry lemonade and the jam in single batches, but I may end up doing a couple of single batches of them, just depending on how much we get from them. So that's what we're going to do for now. We're just going to start getting these ready. I've gotten all my lids out, washed up, and in piles that go together for each project. And then, like I said, all of my jars are in the dishwasher currently. So I will show you each of these bits as we get to them. We already prepared some of the lemon juice that we needed. We did not have quite enough lemons, but I'll show you when we were doing that. And we're just going to fill in the rest with bottled lemon juice. All right, I will show you the lemon prep, and then I will show you when we start getting all this canned up. Okay guys, this is how much of these peppers we have. And I have no idea. We're going to do them in pints. I have no idea how many pints that's going to make. So we're going to make the brine in this pot right here. And I'm just going to make a lot. I'm not sure how much we're going to end up needing. So we're just going to make a very large amount and see how far that gets us. If we have to make more brine, we can. But having the brine out ready and hot while we load up these jars is ideal. So the brine for this is much stronger than the brine that I will use for any other kind of pickling. This one is mostly vinegar. So for my cucumber pickles, I use like a 1-to-1 ratio, but for this I use a 4-to-1 ratio of vinegar to water. I'm going to add a little bit of salt, but it's kind of unnecessary. I just like salty things. And because my pepperoncinis, for whatever reason, are not ever particularly hot, I am going to add some red pepper flakes to this as well. This is a 2-cup measuring cup. It is my favorite thing on the planet. And then I really only like to use white vinegar for this kind of pickle. I don't really love apple cider vinegar or any of the other kind of vinegars. So we're going to do 2, 4. 12. All right, we did 12 cups of that. We'll get 3 cups of water. And then we're just going to bring this up to a boil. Again, anytime you're canning, you're going to use some kind of non-iodized salt. So this just happens to be a pink salt from Costco. Put some in there. And then some crushed red pepper flakes. Just to add a little bit of heat. This is a large quantity, and I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of that jar in there. I'm going to bring this up to a boil, and then once this is boiling and those jars are ready, I'll show you when we put them all together. We're going to do this first, and then we'll start on the strawberries because this needs to be done in the hot jars as soon as they come out, because we are not going to process them again after. We're just going to do hot jars, the vegetables, and then the brine, and put the tops on. We're going to try and do that as quickly as we can to keep everything hot, and then they should seal on their own. Any jars that don't seal, we will just put in the fridge. But as long as they seal, I will consider them shelf stable. Because we are using such an acidic brine, I really feel very comfortable doing that. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you certainly don't have to. This is, again, a process called open kettling. But I'll show you how that goes in a few minutes. Okay, we have 7 jars out. That is actually still working on boiling, but these are ready and hot, so we are just going to start loading them up. By the time we have loaded them up, I am sure that will be ready. And then I've just closed the dishwasher to try and keep the rest of the jars hot so that if we need some more, which we very well might, that we can get them while they are still warm. So I am going to try and pack these in as tightly as possible. And actually, if we can get our So the other rules of canning still apply. It's a pickle, so we are going to leave 1/4 inch of headspace in these. We are going to try and get the air bubbles out after we put in the brine. We are going to put those lids on just to finger tight. I actually like doing this not with the wide mouth lids for a couple of reasons. I think the jars seal a little bit better, but I also think that I can get the peppers in a little bit tighter, and they come out just fine when you're trying to take them out the other side. When I am doing cucumber pickles, sometimes I don't do. Sometimes I like the wide mouth jars a little bit better. So these peppers, because they are full of air in the inside and we don't cut them in half, they really do float, which is why packing them in as tight as I can so that they actually stay under the brine is something that I work hard to achieve. It doesn't always work perfectly, but it's the goal. Only about half the people in my family like these, so I do make them in these smaller pint jars and not in big quarts. I think if everybody liked them, I would probably put them in the quarts. When we make cucumber pickles, we do put them in the quart jars. All right, We do have a brine that is ready, so I'm actually going to go ahead and jar these few up. That was only about half of our pepperoni, so I will need to get some more jars out. We also had a few jalapenos that were ready. I mostly picked them because I want to give those jalapeno plants a chance to grow and make more. These I'm just going to throw in the freezer for now. These are mostly just going to be for salsa for later, so these are going to go in the freezer. But these, let me grab my lids. I just want to have my lids ready. We are going to go ahead and jar up what we have here. Like I said, there's lots of air in these, so it is going to take a minute for us to get all those air bubbles out. Let the water, the brine kind of soak in to those peppers. So I do have a chopstick out here that we are going to use to help that process along. Just want to get some brine in each jar. So we are going to help this process along. Still need a touch more brine on this one. We are going to put that top on. Again, just finger tight. And then we are going to leave these, just like we would any other kind of canning, for 24 hours so those lids can seal. I do live with other people, so we are not alone in the house today. But they are not interested in being on camera, so. All right, so this is what we're going to do for the rest of the peppers as well. So I will show you what we have when we are all done. and then we'll move on to strawberries. All right, friends, so we ended up with 10 pints of those peppers, and that was actually almost exactly the right amount of brine. So that was 12 cups of vinegar and 3 cups of water. So that was perfect. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to make our strawberry lemonade concentrate. I have this out. This is a pressure cooker, pressure canner, sorry. But we are not using a pressure canner for this. It is just going to be a water bath can recipe. But I can double layer in this, and I can't double layer in my regular water bath canner. So we are going to try and make a double batch of this, but I want you to be able to maybe we're in a decent view where you can see our pots. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do, each recipe calls for 6 cups of strawberries. These were strawberries that were frozen. They're still a little bit frozen, but mostly they are mushy, so I think this will measure appropriately. 2, 4, 6, and like I said, we're going to go ahead and double this recipe, so we're going to get 12 cups. So that's 8. 10. 12. So this recipe matters a little bit less than the jam recipes in terms of perfect measurements, because it is not, doesn't have to set. There's no pectin that has to set. There's no firming up that this needs to do. The reason that this is safe is because, again, it has tons and tons of acid in it. So I don't feel like the measurements have to be perfect. Now, it calls for 4 cups of lemon juice per batch, and then it calls for 7 cups of sugar per batch. I am probably not going to put 7 cups of sugar per batch. When I make lemonade, I do the same amount of sugar as I do lemon. So we're going to start with that. So we're going to start with, because we're doing a double batch, 8 cups of lemon juice and then 8 cups of sugar for this whole batch, and see where we end up with that. If it's not sweet enough, it's still too tart, I will add more sugar. But that's where we're going to start. And then we're going to use our stick blender to blend this all up. But let's get our lemon juice. Like I said, we have some of that fresh lemon juice that we got the other day, but this is not going to be nearly enough. So 2, 4, 'Can I get this open? Sorry. I'm going to use a knife and help us open this lemon juice. I don't know why I can't get it to open. All right, and then we need this whole other bottle is another 4 cups. So we're just going to put this in there. So this is really, really fast and easy. This is just warm everything, on the stove until that sugar is dissolved and it's up to boiling. We're going to stick blender it together and go from there. I have so many bags of sugar because of all of the jam making that we are going to be doing today. So even if this is not enough, we will move on to the next bag of sugar. And we're going to put this in pint jars. A pint jar, this is again strawberry lemonade concentrate, so a pint jar of this plus 3 pints of water will give you a gallon of lemonade with that wonderful strawberry summer flavor. All right, so that is our ridiculous number of cups of sugar, but this will give us about 14 pints. So that's a lot of lemonade. So that much sugar still feels pretty reasonable for that much lemonade. And then we're just going to use the same pot to make our jam in a minute because it's got all the same ingredients in it. So then we'll have less mess. But because we are making a double batch, I really wanted this to be able to double stack. All right, so we're just going to give this a few minutes to come up to temperature. And then once we've got it stick blended, that's when we'll decide if we need to add more sugar or if that's enough sugar. Okay, so it's not quite up to a boil yet, but the sugar is mostly dissolved, so I just want to give it a taste test. It's actually pretty good. I like things a little on the tart side. I will probably add a little bit more sugar, but like I said, it called for 7 cups per batch. This is so far 4 cups per batch, and I think I'm going to add maybe 2 more cups. So the original concentrate was sweeter than I would like it, for sure. All right. And we're just going to let that come up to a boil. We have all of our jars set up over here, so once we are up to a boil, I will bring you along for that part of the process. And again, we're mostly just bringing this up to a boil for canning purposes. If you wanted to put this in the freezer, you could freeze it as soon as that sugar is dissolved. But I would like it shelf stable. I do not have so very much room in my freezer, which is actually why I'm getting some of the strawberries out of the freezer. So, all right, I'll see you back for the canning in just a minute. All right, friends, this got all the way up to boiling. This is our canner that has also been warming so that we will be putting hot product into hot canner. And we are just going to get this all jarred up. A step that is especially important when we are canning something like this is to wipe off the rims of the jars. So we will make sure that we do that. But this also comes to that 1/4 inch of headspace. And I'm a little less sure with this. Yeah, that one's a little too full, so I'm going to have to empty that a little bit. We'll just grab a spoon to do that. This is super easy. Just fill up these jars. Okay. And then we'll put them in this canner. They're going to can. Ooh, nope. Oh dear. Too much. Need a big scoop. Big spoon. For 15 minutes. There, that's about 1/4 inch. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Tiny bit more. Tiny bit more. Okay. So this gets a little messy, so I try to use some cloths that I don't care so much about, but there you do need to have something on the counters because hot jars on cold counters can lead to breaking of glass. Glass does not like to be many different temperatures at the same time. So that's also why the canner needs to be the same temperature as the product that is going in it, or pretty close. So hot jars in a hot canner. Okay. We have all our rims, lids and rings over here. So we'll just get this all filled up. There we go. So because I did not add as much sugar as the recipe called for, I will probably get a few less jars than what the recipe said I would get, but that's okay. I think that is a reasonable trade-off. There's enough left in that pot that I will probably pour some into a cup and make myself some lemonade. But first we really need to get these rims cleaned up. Now I've made the sink water hot here. We are going to get these rims really clean. If you do not get them clean, you risk having a poor seal. If you have a bad seal, then you don't have a shelf-stable product. And that is sad for all, because this is so yummy. And then, like I said, while this is canning, we're probably going to go ahead and make our jam. But we are going to get all of our tops on and our rings before we move on to jam. Jam is something that you have to be really careful with. You know, it looks like I was a little bit cavalier with my measurements on these things, and a little bit, you know, willing to use alternative techniques. But with jam, you really can't do any of that. You have to be very precise. You have to follow the recipes very exactly, or your jam will not set, and then you just have syrup and not jam. So I will show you how we will be a little more particular about that once we get these loaded up. Okay, again, like I said, this is a pressure canner, but I'm just using it as a water bath canner. It is a little more than halfway filled up, and these are super hot. So I am going to use my jar lifters. When you're doing water bath canning, you want to make sure that the water level is at least an inch or two above the tops of your jars. And like I said, we're going to need 2 layers here. So we do need that water to go all the way to the top. This is just to make my next layer. I did think that we were going to have a few more jars than this, but that is what happens when you leave out some of the sugar. So this is not quite full yet. I am going to finish filling this up with super hot water, and then we will move on to our jam recipe. Oh my gosh, guys, this is summer in a glass. It is so good. It is so light. It is so refreshing. It does not feel overly sweet. So good. Okay. Our pot has come up to a rolling boil. I could not, in fact, double stack, which was very disappointing. So I have another water bath canner with the other 2 pints on the other side. So I don't have room for the jam just now. So once this is done, then we will make the jam, and I will bring you along. All right, guys, so this canner is done now. The other one is not even up to boiling yet, so we're gonna just switch some things around, put that one on the bigger burner, and come back and make that jam. All right, guys, to make jam, you have to really follow recipes very closely. So we are mostly going to focus on what's in this pot, but we have gotten everything measured out ahead of time, including this boatload of sugar. We have 8 cups of strawberries in the pot that have now been mashed down to 5, and I'll show you what that looks like. I genuinely just use a mashed potato masher. You want them to have some texture to them, so you want them chunky like this. You don't want them smooth, so I do not use a stick blender for this type of recipe. Into this pot, you will pour your jam before you ever start heating anything up. Okay, so we are going to take, I have Sure Gel. You can use whatever pectin you want. Pomona's pectin is what a lot of people like to make low sugar recipes, but you will just put the entire packet in there. Oh look, this one has finally come up to boiling. All right, we're going to set our 15 minutes for that. And then you really don't want to walk away from this. I have this in a pot that is way too big for it on purpose, so that it cannot boil over the sides. So I just added my pectin. I have not turned on the heat at all yet. I'm just turning it on now. And we will wait until this comes up to what they call a full rolling boil, when I cannot even stir out the bubbles. So right now we just stirred in that pectin, and then we're just going to wait for it to come up to that full rolling boil. But I am not going anywhere for this entire process. Okay, so I'm just going to stand right here, but I'll bring you guys back when it's boiling. Okay. Okay guys, so you can see some little bubbles. It is starting to boil, but if I stir it, those bubbles go away. Okay, so that is not the boil we are looking for just yet. Soon we will have it boiling where it doesn't matter if we stir, it will keep boiling. So a few more minutes. Okay, so now we have a boil, and when I stir it, we can still see bubbles. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add the sugar, and that will cool it off a little bit, but we just add it all at once. Make sure it all gets in there. Oh, sorry, I need 2 hands for this, because apparently some of it stuck to my bowl. So all of it really needs to get in there pretty quickly. And then that needs to get stirred in. And then we have to wait until that comes back up to that same kind of really strong boil. You want to get that stirred in really well here. I feel like I've got that stirred in pretty well. So this is what it looks like. See how it's now halfway up the side of the pan? If we had used a smaller pan, we would have been in trouble right about now. So we're just going to kind of keep gently stirring, and it should come back up to that boil again. And once it does, we need to let it boil like that hard for 1 minute, and then it's done. So this takes a few minutes usually for it to come back up to that kind of rolling boil. Some people, you see this foam kind of on the top. And when we stir it, that foam goes away and you get sort of the clear jelly. A lot of people don't like this foam, and so they put a little pat of butter in here, and that can help you get less foam. As it turns out, my kids love the foam, and so I just skim it off and put it in a separate jar in the fridge, and they eat it like strawberry mousse. It's just one of their favorite things. So one of those secondary products that sometimes you can get that most people don't like, that happens to be well loved in this house. Also, our other jars are almost done with their 15 minutes, so we will get to turn that off in just a minute. All right, guys, sorry. This is starting to come to that boil. It is not quite to that hard boil yet because I can stir it away still, but we are very close. I do have enough strawberries to do a second batch of this, so I will probably do a second batch, but I will not show you that one. And then I'll show you what we get when we're done with it all. These only need to can in a water bath canner for 10 minutes. And I am doing them in little jelly jars, so half-pint jars. All right, as I stir this, it is going straight back to the boil, so that counts. We'll set our timer for 1 minute. Let it boil like that for 1 minute. See how it creeps up the side of the pan like that? That is why you really want to make sure that you do not use too small of a pan, even though the strawberries in there really look like they weren't enough for this pan. But they were. All right, 10, 9, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let me turn the heat off, turn the timer off. And then we are going to take this and get it jarred up. So we're going to move it over here. These actually can come out. as well. I think we are going to put this jam in the other canner so that we can try and do a double batch. Now that we're using the jelly jars, I think we should be able to do it. So. All right, this does set up pretty quickly, so you do want to move reasonably quickly on this. I do want to skim as much of the foam off of this as I can because we like those jars to be filled with nice, clean jelly that is clear, just like the jelly that you think of from the store. Well, jam, I guess, because it's got fruit bits in it, but still. So this does take a few minutes to do. And I just go ahead and put it in a jar because I know that it will get eaten. Some people just get rid of this, and that's fine too. It does make for a much prettier jam without the foam. But like I said, I have a couple, not even so little ones anymore, who really enjoy this foam. So we will probably make some biscuits in the next couple days just to enjoy this jam, but you can use it on anything. You can use it on sandwiches, you know, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You can use it in your oatmeal. It can be a cheesecake topping. Anywhere in your life that you would use strawberry jam, this will work. But again, these are tops that you really have to clean the edges of because this is very sticky and it could easily create a seal problem with your jars if you do not. All right, I think that is the most that I can get off of there without taking out jelly. So where is, oh, there it is, my funnel and my scoop. So this is jam, not jelly, so it does have those bits of fruit in there, so I do want those kind of mixed up nicely. And this is also 1/4 of an inch of headspace. Ooh, that is too close to its brethren. I cannot get the funnel in there. In theory, this is 8 jelly jars. As I'm filling these up, it kind of looks like it might be more than that per batch. But, ooh, yeah, it does look like it might be more than that. That is too much for one little jar. Luckily, I did get a bunch more jelly jars ready. there are at least a couple more jars worth jam in there. All right, so that ended up making a tiny little bit more. 10 little half pints and not the 8 that it called for. So like I said, I'm just going to get these rims really well cleaned, and then we will get these into the canner and get started to make the next batch. I will come back and show you when everything is out of the canner what all we made today. All right, friends. Sorry, it's a little foggy on the camera, but everything's pretty warm right now. So we got 10 pints of the pickled pepperoncinis, 10 pints of the strawberry lemonade concentrate, and then, oh, I didn't do the math on this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 16 half pints of the jam, and then 2 little quarter pints. I ran out of pint jar or half pint jars. So that's it. That's what we made today. See you next time.